Record just yes, guys. Welcome to our today's class. We are going to move forward. Remember that we were talking about how to connect different VLANs. How to connect different VLANs. We spoke about different methods. We spoke about the traditional way. We spoke about router on a stick. Now we are going to talk about multi-layer switches, right? We're going to talk about how to connect different VLANs by using a multi-layer switch, right? As we spoke previously, two different VLANs cannot talk, right? Because those two different VLANs, they cannot talk. It means you need a specific way to connect those VLANs. And we discussed about three previous methods. The traditional way, router on a stick. Now, this is the last way, right? Multi-layer switch, right? So I'm gonna try to share my screen. Let me try to, just 1 second. I'm trying to, right? Oh, it's taking me forever. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to create a Word document, right? I see. Okay. Multi-layer switch. My PC is very slow today, so I don't know why. Yes. Right. So we are going to learn, we're going to see how to connect different VLANs using a multi-layer switch, right? So connection of multiple VLANs using a multi-layer switch. Right? Right? Now, remember that we do have two types of switches, right? We do have two types of switches, right? Layer 2 and layer 3, right? So we do have two types of switches, layer 2 and layer 3, right? Layer 2 will use what? MAC address for making decision. For making decision on how to send a message. Let me try first. I'm gonna try to. So we do have two types of switches. So layer 2 and layer 3, right? Layer 2 uses what? MAC address for making decision on how to send a message. So it means this: when two devices or two computers are connected using a layer 2 switch, so if those two devices or those two computers want to talk, your switch will check what? The MAC address of those two computers, right? So for making decision, layer 2 will use a MAC address, right? But when you are using a layer 3, so it's also called multi-layer switch, right? So layer 3, we call it also what? Multi-layer switch. This is a multi-layer switch, right? This layer 2 uses what? Uses, right? So this layer 3 will make decision based on IP address, right? So when you are using a layer 3 switch, right? When you connect your devices using a layer 3 switch or a multi-layer switch, what's going to happen? For that device, for a layer 3 to make decision, layer 3 will use your IP address, the IP address of computers or the IP address of the devices, right? So you have to understand that. So layer 2 will use MAC address for making decision, for connecting the computers. But layer 3 will use an IP address, right? So layer 3 will behave as a router, right? So layer 3 behaves as a router. Layer 3 can run routing protocols. Layer 3 or multi-layer can connect networks, right? Can connect networks. And when we are talking about networks, we're talking also about what? VLANs, right? So when you have a layer 3 switch, that layer 3 switch can behave as a router, right? So that device can behave as a switch at the same time and a router, right? So we can say like this: layer 3, it's what? Layer 2 switch plus router, right? So this is what we have to understand, right? So layer 3 can do what? Layer 3 switch plus router. Right? So a layer 3 switch will have two functions. First, so it's going to behave like a switch. And two, that device will behave as a router. Right? Now, for you to make it to behave like a router, right? So remember, when it's going to behave like a router, means you need an IP address. For your layer 3 to behave as a router, you have to enable what we call routing features, right? Layer 3, you have to enable routing, right? By using this command, IP routing, right? So you have to enable routing, right? So in order to assign an IP address, right? So when we're talking about layer 3, you have to remember that you have to enable what? Routing. When you enable this routing, means what? You can assign now an IP address to that device, right? Remember that layer 2, you cannot use an IP address. But layer 3, we can use an IP address, but we have to enable that future. We have to enable routing on that device in order for it to get an IP address. And the command that we're going to use, this is the command, right? IP root, right? So you're going to be in so you're going to type IP root, right? So this is the actual command, right? Now we are going to go to packet tracer. So remember, guys, layer 2 will make decision based on MAC address. Layer 3 will make decision based on IP address. And you have to remember that when you're talking about a layer 3 can behave as a switch and as a router, double functionalities, right? And for you to use it, for you to assign your layer 3 an IP address, you have to enable routing. You have to enable that feature by using the command IP routing, right? Let's now go to packet tracer. So I'm going maybe just to use here to computers. So I'm going to pick up a layer 2 here, and I'm going to pick up what? A layer 3 switch, this one, right? So the symbol will show you this 3560. So it's a layer 3 switch, right? So as I said, this one going to be under VLAN 10. The IP address 192.168.2.0. And this one, I'm going to put it under VLAN 10, the IP 192.168.1.0, right? And this is your layer 2 switch, right? Means you are going to use what? This device uses what? MAC address for making decision, right? And this is your layer 3 or your multi-layer switch, where you have to enable IP routing, right? Now let's do the connectivity. So I'm going to use this one, all right? So do the same with me, guys. When you plugged to your own interface, make sure that from the configurations also you are going to use that interface. Not here, like myself, I'm using 0/1, and you there you are using 0/10. Make sure that if like on your side, you are using 0/10, you have to change from my configurations, right? But I'm using 0/1, do the same with me. But if you change it, make sure that from your command also you are going to change it. Now we are going to connect this to the switch, right? So switch to switch. So I can use, oh, what happened? So switch and a switch, you can use a crossover because they are the same devices, right? So you can select properly, right? So I got VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, right? Now, what we have to do, let's assign first the IPs to my computers, right? I'm waiting. So we are going to assign first the IPs to my computers. Remember that I'm using just one computer, but in real world, you can have 500, 1000, right? But the configuration still the same. 192.168.1.1. No, I can take .2, and remember, we need a default gateway because we are talking about a layer 3 switch, right? 192.168.1.1. So, and you go to the second one, desktop, 192.168.2.2, the default gateway .2.2, right? From this particular switch, right? We are going to create two VLANs, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, right? I made a mistake here. Okay. So it's gonna be, we can console. So terminal, enable, configure terminal, VLAN 10. I can give it a name like IT. VLAN 20, name HR. Remember that this port, this one will belong to VLAN 10. So interface, first ethernet 0/1, switch port. So I'm using the tab. You only type SW tab, space, you put M tab, you put A tab, but the full command is switch port mode access, right? Now we are going to assign this port to VLAN 10. So SW tab, M tab, A tab, no. A tab, V tab, VLAN 10, and we exit, right? Now we are going to use the second interface. Interface 0/2, SW tab, M tab, A tab, SW, A, V, VLAN 20, right? We exit. This one, the FA0/3, the one that goes to the multi-layer, we must make it a chunk. So interface FA0/3, right? Switch ports M, C, trunk, right? So, and you can exit, right? So this one must be a trunk, right? This one, this one must be a trunk, right? Now, because we are done, we have now to go to the multi-layer switch one, right? So we can console to the multi-layer, right? You go to the switch. Now we are dealing with the multi-layer, right? Remember that step empty, we have to enable IP routing. We have to enable the routing in order for us to assign the IP addresses to those two VLANs. Remember, we created VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, right? So I can create them first. VLAN 10, name was IT. VLAN 20, name HR, right? And you exit. So we have to enable now what? Routing features by typing the command IP routing, right? Right? Now, because you enable this IP routing, means you can assign the IP addresses to the virtual interface. So here we are using the SVI, switch virtual interface, right? Because you enable the IP routing you can assign IPs to the virtual interfaces. So how many we do have? We do have 2 virtual interfaces, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, right? So you're gonna say interface VLAN 10, right? Now we're gonna assign it the IP address. Remember, the IP address we're gonna give to this interface is the one that we gave here, the default gateway. So IP address 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0, right? You are done. Now we're gonna move to the next virtual interface. Remember, we do have 2 VLANs. If you have 4 or 10 VLANs, you have to assign all those 10 the IP addresses, right? So don't ask me again why you gave us like 2 and here you are giving us 4. So it's like I told you already, 1 plus 1, it's 2. You know that plus means adding. When I'm gonna come with 5 plus 5, don't ask me again what we're gonna do here, all right? So now we're gonna go to the interface VLAN 20, right? IP address 192.168.2.1, 255.255.255.0, right? And you exit, right? Now we can make like this interface, like this one, this FA0/1, a trunk, right? We can make it a trunk, but because this one is already a trunk, they can communicate, right? Okay. You know that from here, you can also do show run when you wanna see your configurations, right? So you can see the host name, the IP route. You can see, so I'm pressing enter, right? Just press enter, enter. You can learn about, you can see your interface VLAN 10, the MAC address, the IP addresses, and so on, right? Okay, now because we are done, let's try to ping now. Let's try to test the connectivity. So I'm gonna go to this computer. First, I'm gonna ping my default gateway. You can see there is a reply, right? Number 2, I'm gonna ping the next computer. .2.2, right? You can see, yeah. You can see there is a reply. Those 2 computers, they're in different VLANs, but they can talk. So this is how you can connect multiple VLANs, multiple departments using a multi-layer switch, right? Remember that the only thing that you have to understand is this: you have to enable IP routing from the global configuration. When you enable IP routing, means that you can assign the IPs to those virtual interfaces, right? Suppose like you have 5 departments, means 5 VLANs, means 5 virtual interfaces, and you have to assign those 5 virtual interfaces IP addresses. And those IP addresses, those are the default gateway that you have to assign to your computers, right? And when you go to your layer 2 switch, this layer 2 switch, that port that goes from layer 2 to your multi-layer switch, you have to make it a trunk, right? Now, so I'm gonna take the next exercises, right? Where I can use maybe 2 switches just to make sure that you understood, right? So I'm gonna pick up here like 2 computers, right? Do the same with me, 2 guys. So I'm gonna pick up like a switch here, no? I will fire you. How many days? you are not coming. So, and you are dancing, you are saying 1. Am I crazy? You are sick, so you did nothing, no homework. Go first there, I'm coming to you then. Okay, now you connect your PCs. Put a switch. And your switch is, okay, let's take the gigabit, right? The fastest one, right? Most of the time when you're connecting like 2 switches, you must get used to the fastest port or interfaces. I'm gonna make it like this in order for you to see better, all right? So this one, it's gonna be the VLAN 30, the IP is 192.168.1.0. This one is gonna be on VLAN 40, the IP 2.0, right? Make sure that this one is gonna make it as a trunk, and this one you're gonna make it as a trunk. So when you are dealing with a trunk, most of the time there's no need for you when you're connecting like 2 switches, like to make this one trunk and this one trunk. When you make only one like as a trunk, they can still communicate, right? And from here, what you're gonna do, you enable IP routing, number 1, assign IP to switch virtual interface, SVI, right? So this is what you have to do. So from here, you're gonna do what? All right? We're gonna create, okay, first, let's assign the IPs to those 2 computers, right? IPs. Remember, you have to assign a default gateway to those computers. You do the same here. Yes, when you are done, you must create your VLANs, right? We're gonna create our VLANs. Which interface? This one, the FA, oh no. Let's create first VLAN 10, name IT. Oh, okay, it's VLAN 30. Okay, VLAN 30. Name maybe L. VLAN 40. Name H, right? You exit. So interface to FA0/1, SW shortcut. You press tab, M tab, A tab. You make it first like an access port. And SW tab, A. You press tab, V. We're gonna make it what? So that interface will belong in VLAN 30 here. This one will belong in VLAN 30, right? VLAN 30, you exit. Now we're gonna take which one? Yes, we are done. What else? Yeah. So I'm done with this one. We can go here, right? You can console or not. to enable, configure terminal, VLAN 30, name L, VLAN 40, name H, you exit, which interface this one? So interface 0/1, switch port, mode access, switch port to access, VLAN 40. Remember that we're going to put it under VLAN 40. And you exit. Now we're going to take this port, this interface, we're going to make it like a trunk. Interface, gigabit 0/1, you make it a trunk. Switch port mode trunk. And you exit. Remember that you must also come here. This one too, that interface also must be a trunk. So switch port mode trunk, right? Exit. So this one must be a trunk and this one too must be a trunk. When you are done, we go to the multi-layer switch. Right? Enable, right? We need to enable routing in order for us to be able to assign the IP addresses. We type IP routing, right? We do have two VLANs. Interface, VLAN 30, so IP address, 192.168.1.1, 254.254.254.0. You exit, interface, VLAN 40, IP address 192.168.2.1, 255.255.254.0. Oh, I made a mistake. What? Okay. Right. We are done, right? Because we are done, we have to test now the connectivities, right? I'm gonna try to ping my default gateway. All right. Let me check my IPs. Yeah, but everything is fine. Okay, let me go to this side. I would say 2.1. I'm gonna ping my default gateway here from here. Let's see if the communication still. Okay, let's try. We're gonna make like this one like a trunk and this one too as a trunk, right? Interface, which one? From the multi-layer switch, gigabit 0/1, switch port mode. Okay, we have to configure the encapsulations. So I'm gonna go back to the interface. Use switch port, the trunk, encapsulation .1Q, right? Switch port trunk encapsulation .1Q. We have to configure the encapsulation on that particular switch, right? You press enter, right? But there's the second one, it's interface gigabit 0/2. Interface gigabit 0/2. Switch port trunk encapsulation .1Q. You press enter and you exit. We can try again to ping, first the default gateway. Still coming. Let's see what's gonna happen. I'm gonna try. Oh, I'm trying just to ping. Let me see what's going on. Oh, I forgot. Sorry, guys, there were no VLANs here. Right? Yeah. Sorry. So I forgot to create those two VLANs. VLAN 30. Name was like L. VLAN 40. Name was, I think, H. And you exit. I think that was the main problem. I was rushing, so let me see again. Yeah. So I forgot to create the VLANs, right? And when you come here, we can try to ping, right? You can see that there's a reply. Yeah, the main problem was the VLANs. So I forgot to create those VLANs. Even though you don't configure the encapsulation, but the VLANs was the main problem. So for the steps, guys, it's very easy, right? You enable the IP routing, you create those VLANs, you assign them the IPs, right? Make sure that the connectivity is from the switch to the router. No, yeah, to the multi-layer switch. You make them S1, finished, and you ping, right? So thank you very much. For any issue, guys, don't hesitate to contact me.